His name was Samuel Reyes, 31 years old, a man who, on paper, looked like someone who had simply run out of luck. 5 years earlier, Samuel had a stable job, a small apartment, and a plan that felt reasonable: save money, start a business, build something of his own. It felt achievable. It felt safe. But safe plans rarely survive contact with reality. By the time Samuel turned 30, he had already tried and failed at 2 businesses, burned through his savings, and quietly moved back in with his older sister, sleeping on a fold-out couch in her living room, surrounded by boxes he never fully unpacked. Because unpacking felt like admitting this was permanent. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't unintelligent. He was simply a man who kept betting on himself in a world that rarely rewards belief without proof. The final chance didn't arrive with fanfare. It arrived quietly, almost unnoticed, in the form of a bank notice and a conversation with his sister. "Sam," she said one evening, not unkindly, but firmly, "I love you, but I can't keep doing this. You have 3 months before I need this space back for the baby's room." 3 months. That same week, Samuel opened his laptop and stared at a number that had haunted him for weeks: 1,200. That was everything he had left in the world. Not investment capital, not seed money, just everything. He sat there for a long time, staring at that number, thinking about every failed attempt before it. The graphic design business that collapsed because he underpriced every project into the ground. The reselling business that fell apart when a supplier scammed him out of half his inventory. Each failure had taught him something. But lessons don't pay rent. Lessons don't buy time. He had one thing left: 1,200, 3 months, and an idea he'd been too afraid to try. Because if this one failed too, there would be nothing left to blame but himself, with no more chances to prove otherwise. Slightly quicker pace, building tension. Samuel had noticed something during his years of failed businesses, a pattern nobody else seemed to be addressing. Small local shop owners in his city desperately needed a simple, affordable way to manage online orders, but every existing tool was either too expensive or too complicated for a one-person shop to use. He had seen this problem up close, in every failed business he'd run. It wasn't a new idea, it was the same idea, seen from a new angle, sharpened by every mistake that came before it. This time, Samuel didn't dive in blindly. He didn't spend on branding, or a fancy website, or expensive advertising. He spent his first 200 on a single conversation, hiring a freelance developer for 4 hours to help him validate whether the idea was even technically possible. It was. Barely, but it was. With 1,000 left, and roughly 11 weeks on the clock, Samuel made a decision that terrified him. Instead of building the whole product in secret and hoping it worked, he would sell it before it existed. He walked into 5 local shops in his neighborhood, not with a slide deck, not with a demo, just with a notebook and an honest pitch. "I'm building a simple tool to help you manage online orders in one place. It's not ready yet, but if I build it for you, will you pay $30 a month to use it?" 3 shop owners said yes, 2 said no. That was enough. With 3 paying customers lined up, and 3 deposits of $30 sitting in his account, proof that real people were willing to pay for something that didn't exist yet, Samuel had 11 weeks to build a working product from nothing. He worked from his sister's kitchen table every night, after a temporary day job stacking shelves at a grocery store, just to cover basic expenses while he built. He taught himself just enough coding through free online resources to build a rough, ugly but functional version of the tool. Week 4. The prototype crashed constantly. He nearly missed his self-imposed deadline for the first shop owner. Week 6. One of the 3 shop owners called to say she'd found a competitor's tool and wanted to cancel. Samuel felt the familiar chill of a 4th failure creeping in. The internal voice that had whispered, "Just quit now, before it hurts more," through every failed business before this one. But this time, something was different. This time, there was no fold-out couch waiting 6 months from now. There was no soft landing. The deadline was real, the money was gone, and quitting wasn't a decision he could quietly make. It was one he'd have to say out loud, to his sister, to himself, to everyone who had watched him try and fail before. So instead of quitting, he called the shop owner back, not to convince her to stay, but to genuinely ask why she wanted to leave. She told him plainly the competitor's tool sent automatic order confirmations to customers. His didn't. It was one missing feature, not the whole idea. He spent the next 4 days adding that single function, barely sleeping, fueled by instant noodles and the growing, quiet fear of watching his final chance slip away over something fixable. By week 11, Samuel had a small, imperfect, but working tool, used daily by 3 real shop owners who paid him, on time, every month. It wasn't a fortune, $90 a month barely covered his phone bill, but it was proof, real, undeniable proof, that this time, the idea worked. His sister, seeing the tool in action, gently extended the deadline by another month. Word spread slowly between shop owners in the same small business network. 6 months later, Samuel had 18 paying customers. A year later, 60. He never became a headline. He never got wealthy overnight. But he built something real, on the very last chance he ever gave himself, proving that his failures hadn't been proof he couldn't succeed. They'd simply been the price of admission for the one attempt that would. Slower, direct address to the viewer. Here's what Samuel's story really teaches us. A final chance isn't a punishment. It's a filter. It strips away everything except what actually matters, the idea worth fighting for, and the version of yourself willing to fight for it without a safety net. Most people never find out what they're capable of, because they always have another cushion, another comfortable fallback. Samuel didn't. And that absence of a fallback is exactly what forced him to finally do the one thing that worked. If you're staring at your own final chance right now, don't see it as the end. See it as the moment everything before it was preparing you for. Warm, direct, energetic close. If Samuel's story spoke to you, here's what I want you to do right now. Comment below. Tell me, what's the final chance you're facing today? Subscribe to this channel, because every week we bring you real, honest stories about people who turned their lowest point into their turning point. And most importantly, take one small action today toward whatever you've been putting off. Not tomorrow, today. Because somewhere down the road, you might look back and realize this really was your final chance, and you took it.